So as same as we can iterate through all the elements in a list as well as in another data structure, we can also iterate through elements in a dictionary. And we can access the elements, use it in the expression or however we want to use it. And how do we iterate? What do you think? What is structure, what programming construct, Python construct we use? We can use to iterate through loops, and specifically a for loop. With the help of for loop, we can iterate through all the dictionary items. Right? And again, dictionary is also unordered set of elements. Okay, unordered means like again we cannot access them by their index values, which means that when you are looping through or iterating through all the dictionary elements, it might be possible that the element that you get in a specific iteration may not be the one which appears to be in dictionary. Okay, so for example, you have a dictionary, keys are A, its associated value, and then B and its associated value, and then C associated value. So when you loop through the dictionary, it may be possible that you may get C first and B next and then A later on. Okay, because these are all unordered elements, but we access the elements with the help of their keys. So for loop over a dictionary retrieves each key in a dictionary. So for example, here we have a dictionary named D. We have a key value, and all that. So when I loop through, again, this is a variable, loop variable. I could give a name key, I could give it a name value, I could give it a name A, I, whatever. Okay, so when I'm looping through a dictionary, it returns the key in a dictionary. Okay, all right, so it will only return the key. I can print the key here. So this is the same thing. So iterating through keys, we can just print the key. In order to access elements of associated key, what do we need to modify here? How can I access the elements the values associated to these keys? You need a slight modification. So once you have the key, how can you access an element?
By just printing the value.
Like what? For example, if I have, let's say, let me just copy this here. I'm just trying to paste it into a whiteboard to continue further from there. Okay, let's see if I got it here. Yep. Okay, now for, let's say I'm naming it key. This is a for loop variable, okay, in dictionary name, which is D. So again, when we loop through a dictionary, it returns the key values. So when you were writing this print key, it printed out what? Hi, and then next A, and then 2, and then apple. So what do I need to do in order to access the values instead of key? Or we can also have a key, but focus on accelerating the values. What should I do? For key in D. If I have to print the values, what should I be doing? Yep, Stella.
D then square brackets.
D, of course, in order to access any value associated to key is, first of all, we need to specify the name of the dictionary, which is D. And how do we access element? By specifying the key in the brackets, right? So key is already got here. Once we specify like this, it will print 3, and the next time it run 5, then 4, and then fruit. Okay, any question? Good. There it is. Okay, so the next thing is we can actually access key and value both at the same time. So first of all, dictionary supports special methods to read. Like in order to read keys, we have a special method called keys, dot keys. Okay, so when I'm talking about method, again, so we have already studied classes and data structure. So method means method is a function that is a part of a class. Remember, we discussed that method is a term that is used to denote a function that is a part of a class. So which means we are actually num underscore calories is an object, is a dictionary object. So dictionary is a class and it's an object, num underscore calories. We can run keys method in order to retrieve keys. Similarly, in order to retrieve values, we have a specific method called dot values. The third thing is key and values we can access both at the same time in the form of a tuple. Okay, so we have to use dot items method. Okay, so if we are actually iterating through a list, dictionary like this, num underscore calories. Suppose we have 3 elements, 3 key value pairs in this dictionary, and we are iterating through keys. What we would do is you would just write num underscore calories dot keys. So it will, even if you do not write dot keys, if you only write num underscore calories, the default behavior is it returns keys. Okay, and when you print keys, followed by the space at the end of print statement. So Coke, Coke Zero, Pepsi are the keys that are present in num underscore calories. In order to access values, so instead of using the square brackets way, we can actually use the dot values method simply. And you can see that we are retrieving a value, but they are being stored in a variable named keys. Again, it's simply a variable. You can name it whatever you want. The naming it keys does not mean that it will be holding keys. Okay, this is very important from, again, conceptual point of view. So it will retrieve its values because we have used the values method. 90, 0, 94. 90, which is the second one is 0, and then 94. And iterating through key value pairs, if you use items method, it returns a tuple with the key as the first element and values as the second element. Okay, so again, I could have written this here values and keys here, but the first element would always be a key and the second element would always be values. Okay, do not get confused if you see something like this. If I say so instead of writing this, let's say if I say for values and keys in, let's say here, let's take the same example, D, and print, let's say I'm printing value and key. Okay, so in a dictionary D, what do you think it will be printing? So if I bring it down here, how do I copy it? So this is our dictionary. So when I execute this statement, this piece of code, what will be printed? What will be the first thing that will be printed? In which order? 3, and you're saying what? Comma? Or let's say it's not comma. Comma will not be printed, of course. Or if I do it like this, wait a minute, instead of having, I can add a comma in between and then keys. Okay, so next thing is the comma will be printed and then keys. So you're saying hi will be printed, right? Do you guys agree? Everybody is nodding their heads without even listening. Why do you agree? I just told you. Stella, you were saying something. Why is it incorrect? Key always comes first. Okay, these are just the variable names. It returns. Sorry, if I have to run it, items method. Okay, so if I run this, it always return a tuple in the form of key and value. So when this thing runs first, it will retrieve this value. Hi is the key and 3 is its value. Okay, so it does not matter. The hi will be placed here, hi will be containing here, and value which is 3 will be placed here. So it does not matter what you name it. So if you have to, like for example, if you have to define a variable, let's say name, and instead of name you write 1 2 3 4, so it's up to you, whatever you are choosing. Instead of using a meaningful, let's say ID could be 1 2 3 4, and instead you chose a name to hold the actual ID. So it's all up to the developer. So do not get confused, because the first element you can name it A, you can name it B, you can name it keys, you can name it values, but the first element before comma will always be the key. Okay, understand? If you are not concentrating, just consider that you are losing points in your exam. Okay, all right, so let's go back. Nesting, we can actually nest the elements just like nested list. 1 2 and the third element is also a list, fourth element is a list also, third element is a simple element -2, and this one was also a list containing 3 elements. So dictionaries can also be nested. So in order to nest a dictionary, it's a very powerful way of organizing data. So suppose grades, just like in your case, I had a grade for every student. So Ricky Ponting is also a dictionary. So for example, Hirsi or Adil, I had your data arranged in a form of dictionary. Homeworks, midterm, course, or let's say participation activities were all arranged in the form of a list. So it is a dictionary which contains all the elements in a dictionary. Is also a nested dictionary, and within that nested dictionary I have the first element as a list. Okay, so this dictionary contains, the grades dictionary contain how many keys? Try to read it in this way. The grades dictionary contains how many elements? How many keys? 3. Ricky Ponting, Glenn McGraw, and Ricky Bobby. And then Ricky Ponting, the value associated to Ricky Ponting is also a dictionary. Now in this dictionary, it contains again nested 3 elements. The first element, the first key is homeworks, and its associated value could be a single value. Here it is a list. So you see that how complex a data arrangement or data structure can grow. Okay, so it's a very powerful way again. So how can you access the score of the last homework of a student named Glenn McGraw? So first of all, think about what would you do first in order to access a key in a dictionary what do? We are not talking about looping, we are just talking about accessing a particular data. So in order to access a key in a dictionary, what do? Type the dictionary name first, and what data you want to retrieve. You have to specify what? The key. What key is it here? Glenn McGraw. Okay, so by specifying this statement, we actually have access to the value associated with this Glenn McGraw. Now the value itself contains again a dictionary. Now what does it say? The last homework, which means that homework is a key in the nested dictionary. So how do we access homework? How do we access the value associated with homework?
Indexing homework.
Again, because it's a dictionary, we can access the elements within the dictionary only by specifying the key. So next thing that you would be specifying is homeworks. Okay, so now first you access Glenn McGraw. Within Glenn McGraw, you access homeworks. And within homework, how do you access the values here? It's a list. Now in this list, you have to access the last element. How do you access the last element in a list? How will you access the last element in a list? Yes, Hannah? -1 will give us the last element. Okay? Do you understand? So if you understand this, you can easily implement complex things in your code. Okay? Any question? Yeah. No, you actually these are interchangeable. It's like I did not pay attention to be, consistent.